Hello and welcome to another installment of the Full Force Monthly, brought to you by Hoarder, the collector's app. I am Christopher McLeod AKA Diagnostic 80, and in this regular series we get stuck into specific G.I. Joe related topics with different special guest hosts every single month. So who's joining me on this episode? Well, first up we have one half of the Articulated Points YouTube channel and my regular co-host on the Full Force Weekly. It's Patrick Notpicard Stewart, and returning after a long hiatus, it's the General himself, Justin, Generals Joe's Bell. Considering its recent success, we will be talking G.I. Joe HasLabs. Yep, what we want to see from a HasLab in both the O-Ring and Classified lines in the future. Throw in another version therapy, and you've got yourselves a brand new episode of... What is it, Pat?
The Full Force Monthly.
I love the little pause to check.
I'm glad you asked him. I'm out of practice. I would have fumbled all over myself.
You'd have been like, I don't know, some show with you douchebags is what you'd have said. Wow, Justin's back.
I know, it's great. Exciting.
I was going to have some Backstreet Boys, Backstreet's Back music in the background there, but it's not going to happen. We're all dancing, but it ain't happening. Yeah. Great to have you back on, buddy. How have you been?
I've been good. Busy. Life is busy, as it is for everybody, but no, I'm doing all right. I'm glad to be back on again.
I was going to say, we've missed you.
I know, I missed you guys too.
Yeah, it's good to see you again.
You too, Pat. Absolutely. You're the reason I'm here. Chris is just kind of tagging along, but I'm really here to talk to you.
Wow.
Is that an empty shelf I see behind you waiting?
It is.
G.I. Joes?
It might end up being that way. Yeah, it was filled with DVDs, and I've been stashing those away and trying to find better uses of my space. So you can see I mounted my TV on the wall. It used to sit on that shelf, and now it's up there on the wall. So yeah, I'm rearranging things a little bit here. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
I bet you know how weather people feel now while they're on the news and they can't actually see anything.
They got the green screen.
Like, here in Albuquerque, that's amazing. Cool. Well, good to all be on. Pat, how are you doing, my good man?
Oh, I'm doing great.
Awesome. What more? You
just talked to him a week ago. It's no big deal.
Yeah, and we're going to be chatting tomorrow as well. So I'll just assume the normal. How have I been? Terrible. But enough of that. Let's move on to what we're here to talk about today, which is HasLabs. Explosion. Right then, people, we are talking HasLabs and what we would like to see next in both the O-Ring and Classified lines. Each presenter has chosen 2 options per line, and we will go through them all and discuss what we think will work as a larger dream ticket for G.I. Joe. Okay, let's get stuck in. Starting with... I can't remember who started. I think it's Justin starting first, aren't you, Justin?
I think so, yeah.
Let's take us through your first option, please, sir.
Yeah, on the O-Ring side of things, a couple different reasons why I chose what I chose, but I went for the Killer Whale hovercraft, designed for the G.I. Joe O-Rings, and there's kind of a few different reasons. Obviously, the hovercraft itself is a very cool vehicle, very classic vehicle, somewhat timeless.
It's all right.
But I mean, it was also one of those few vehicles that actually didn't get redone in the anniversary line or any of the modern lines. It's basically what we got in the vintage days was pretty much it, and it was notoriously fragile. Like, pieces could fall off pretty easily, especially the fan blades and the rudders, and at least in my case, almost every I've owned probably 2 or 3 of them along the way, and the missile launchers kind of droop a little bit. We've all got that problem sometimes, but yeah, the whale really has it. But yeah, it's got an awesome design. It's an iconic vehicle, and I think if they did some more modern tooling on it and kind of fixed some of those issues, as they tend to do when they redo some of these classic vehicles, you could have something that really captures the essence of the Killer Whale without some of those funky little drawbacks. And then along with that, as they did with the Sky Striker, having all those blast effects and things, like they could do so many cool blast effects, having the missiles all shooting out of the missile launchers, some big blasts for the front weapons. The small gun turrets could even have little blast effects to them. There's just a lot of really cool stuff they could do.
What about like a little kind of, you're probably going to say it. Go on.
Well, I was going to talk about like the little compartment at the front that sort of opens, and whether they could put some additional seats in there or some other kind of cool, like little call outs in that little section, and obviously the little spring loaded slide that comes firing out, and the motorcycle. I mean, there's just so many cool different elements
Yeah.
to the whale that it's a fascinating sort of exploration of GI Joe in my mind, because it was a relatively early vehicle. I think it
Yeah.
came out in '85 or '84. And it, like I said, it didn't really get revisited, probably because it might have just cost a ton to get it all retooled.
Yeah, just the Night
So
Force one, wasn't it? Pretty much, I think.
yeah, it was Night Force, and that was pretty much it. But nothing since the vintage days, really. So I think it's one of those vehicles that I think a lot of people would gravitate towards, because more modern collectors just haven't had a chance to own it, or if they
They'd
did,
hover towards it, Justin, is what they would do.
absolutely, absolutely.
I would.
But
I was thinking how cool it would be to have like a big display stand, which effectively would be like an
Exactly, yep.
angled gust of
Yep.
wind or something. Do you know what I mean? Like
totally, yeah,
all like kind of spread out around the edges.
yeah,
That'd be quite cute. Wouldn't it?
totally. I think that'd be awesome. They could even, I mean, you could have a couple different ones where it looked like it was like on a gust of wind or whatever, or maybe on some spreading water or something like that. So you
Genius.
could like simulate a water landing. There's all sorts of different sort of sort of display areas and blast effects and things like that that could complement it, similar to what they did with the Sky Striker, how you can
Absolutely.
fly it in and have missiles firing from it. I just think
Stick
that
it
sort
on the
of
Sky
thing
Striker one and just have it like
yeah,
angling it around like that with missiles coming off the skirt and everything like that. That'd be amazing.
beautiful. That'd be beautiful. So yeah, I mean, and obviously that would be the vehicle, and as with the Sky Striker, it would have to come with some figures. Obviously, Cutter would be a
Nah.
logical choice.
Just don't say it.
I'd probably want to throw Shipwreck in there too. I think Torpedo would be another cool addition, just
Yeah.
because those characters are all sort of around that same time frame. And then sort of as a curveball to some long-term comic book fans, I don't know how many people remember, but back in the original Marvel comic, Deep Six would occasionally appear outside of his dive suit with like kind of a knit sweater and a life jacket and a hat on, and it would be kind of cool if they threw that in there as sort of a version of Deep Six that we never really got.
I can see Pat's enjoying that option.
Oh yeah, that one's a good one for sure.
Yeah, I mean it's funny, I don't want to get too far off topic, but I mean,
Go for it. This is
those
the
of us that have
monthly.
been those of us that have been around for a while, like when I first started, gravitating towards the online, or hovering towards the online community in the late '90s, there was a short list back then of dream characters, dream figures that we never had a Billy, we never had a Quinn, the October Guard. Those were all highly desired figures, and I think in a lot of cases that Deep Six was among them, because he's a pretty interesting character. But he's
Yeah.
only been in dive suits. The
Yeah.
first version where he could barely move, and obviously the updated versions where
the modern retro throwback modern
Yeah.
future retro version 2.
he was better articulated, but you still couldn't. He didn't really exist outside of underwater scenarios. So I think that was just a figure that I used to see quite often come up on the message boards back then as sort of a figure that people wanted. And I don't believe they ever, even in the modern era or anything like that, really. Or maybe they did. Did the 25th anniversary do something with that?
They've done
those
like
3-packs. It wasn't Deep Six,
they've done Deep Six in like a like a wetsuit type thing, like a torpedo.
Yeah,
getup.
that's right. Yeah,
But
yeah.
I don't think they haven't
not,
done him like wetsuit was done in the Mission Brazil set, wasn't he? As like a
right. Yeah.
on ground
These jungle
hat and
fatigues or
everything.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you really nailed it. This is one of the ones that's been wanted for a long time and just has never been done.
Yeah.
Plus, with O-Ring, this one, like, you could really throw it at this moment, and you can throw in any characters, because nothing's been done, really, has it? You're talking, like, Cobra Trooper, Cobra Officer, Duke, Cobra Commander, and Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. That's what we've had so far, and, like, a few other little bits and pieces here and there in, like Megatron and Baroness and Stalker with Bumblebee, etc., etc. But, like, because we haven't really explored the figures, you can pretty much just say all the water-based ones, because we haven't gone nowhere near touching the G.I. Joe roster yet, have we?
Yeah, and considering sort of the release cadence of these O-Ring figures, I don't have a whole lot of confidence that if they don't release like big batches of them at once, you're not going to see a lot of, a very wide roster, just because we're getting 6 figures a year or something like that, maybe 8. So I mean, this would be a good way to kind of
currently
gather together a lot of those water-based Joes. And of course, they'd probably want to reuse tooling somewhere, so you'd have to figure out how they got creative with some of this stuff. But I think there's ways they could do it.
definitely. No, it's a great shout. I mean, the whale has always been an absolute... It's been one of those kind of like mythical creatures for me because I didn't have it as a kid. I got it in later. I got it in later life. Not actual whales, the vehicle itself. I know whales are real, by the way. The country and the animal, the mammal. And basically, I think that the whale is great. Like it's such a, like you say, packed full of features. The opportunity there to throw loads of characters in as well is like it keeps growing because there are so many characters synonymous with the whale. You just see them sitting in there the whole time, like in the comics and in the cartoon and all that kind of good stuff. I mean, even like I'd probably go as far as say barbecue's synonymous with the whale because he's been in the cartoon, he's been sitting in there in the cartoon and like numerous occasions. So you know, it's one of those ones. Yeah, it covers a lot of bases and you can get a lot out of it. Would you make it bigger or would you keep it the same size, just out of interest?
That's a tough call. I'd probably keep it close to the same size. You know, I think it would be neat if the compartment that opened could fit more figures, but
that's what I'm
at
thinking,
some point you just get it a little bit too big. And I think the rest of it beyond that compartment, even with that compartment, was pretty decent size back in the day. I think it's okay the size that it is. I don't think it needs to be a whole lot bigger.
Would you like it bigger, Pat?
I tended to think of this like going off of the Sky Striker. I'm just thinking more features and
more
as
detail.
Justin said, address those issues that kind of were a problem. The one thing I kind of wonder with the whale is should the fans be motorized?
Ooh, good shout.
Because
that would be very cool.
You're cranking that thing the whole time.
Yep.
Yeah.
I feel like Timber on a minecart cranking that all day long.
Right. But underneath the whale, there's always been that compartment that's been weird. And I look at it and go, was that intended for batteries? Or is that really just storage? I've always wondered that. And regardless of what the answer is, it would be very possible to just, you know, make it hold batteries.
Absolutely. That'd be great.
And make the whale actually function. I think that would be neat.
I agree. Plus, I think when you really like look at that vehicle, there's a lot of space to work with. Like even underneath, do you know what I mean? There'd be a way to do it comfortably, I think. Yeah, good shout on the whale, Justin, to start us off. Lovely stuff. Okay, next up then, Pat, do you want to take us through your first O-ring option, please, my good man?
Yeah, you know, I kind of think that the key to a really good O-ring HasLab is having several figures in the set. Whenever I was envisioning them, because you told us to pick two, I wasn't thinking of it as being an option of one or the other. I was thinking of, this is my dream, so I'm doing it my way. And I'm having both. Both of my picks are just happening in my head, you know, for this particular scenario.
This would be one HasLab, but two major items involved. Is that what you're saying?
No, two HasLabs.
Oh, okay.
They just both get to happen.
Okay, there you go. So he just that's it. You just know it's happening now. Okay, good.
This is basically part one of a HasLab that, you know, if successful, the second part hopefully would also happen, or the second one may actually come first. I don't know.
Who knows?
I was just kind of spitballing.
He was drunk at the time, so don't worry about it, guys.
But I think that something everybody has kind of demanded, and this may feel a little bit redundant, so maybe this would be part two. But I think a HasLab HISS tank.
Oh, yeah. No one has ever thought of that, Pat. Why have we not thought of doing a HISS tank as a HasLab? No, that's genius.
Right.
You're talking a slightly different one, though, aren't you, here?
Yes, I am. We've all spotted so many different incarnations of the HISS tank in the original run, and we've seen the concept drawings of the original HISS.
Oh, yeah.
I think that if there was like a HISS tank that had the two-seater that dropped down in the front.
Yep.
And then back behind where the turret is, if there was kind of a flatbed area that it looks kind of like it did in the cover of issue number 16. In that flatbed area, you'd also maybe have the option of popping in other modular components, such as an additional turret or other things like a thing to drop bombs, like in the concept art. So there's a lot of different things that you could do with a physically larger command HISS.
Yeah, big time.
And I really think that would be something that in the O-ring line, is also something that we've wanted to see for a long time that has not happened.
Would you, again, like, same question, and I know you're not finished, Pat, sorry, but same question at this point that I gave to Justin about the whale. Would you want to make this much bigger? Make it significantly
of course,
bigger?
Yes. Imagine the cockpit of the HISS tank, only twice as wide.
Yeah, so it's going to be...
Well, not quite twice as wide. One figure seat wider.
Yeah.
And then also making it drop down, it's going to have clearance away from those treads.
Yeah.
And I don't want the treads to be kind of wedged in the middle and have it look like, it's a teeter-totter.
Yeah, it's got to be a bit wider. Yeah.
Some length to it and some width to those treads.
You always see the HISS tank on the cartoon or in the comics, and they've widened the tracks, haven't they? The tracks are always sticking out a bit, aren't they? And there's one that, I mean, loads of artists draw it differently, but I saw in one issue the kind of cockpit was almost like an oval, and then the the tracks were about 20 feet outside of that. Like, and I'm like, that doesn't look anything like a HISS tank. I was probably looking at a different vehicle, but
but also front to back. To back, they need to get longer. So that it looks like it's properly supported.
That one in Pyramids of Darkness that's got like 2 turrets front and back.
Yeah.
That's quite interesting. Would you have it side by side, or would you have it front and back like that?
Front and back. Yeah, front and back. Because if you look at that one in Pyramid of Darkness, it has it front and back. If you could imagine just lifting off that back turret, you could make it so that it would have the flatbed that Destro battles Hawk in on the cover of issue number 16.
Yeah, I like that thought.
You could just do both of those in one vehicle.
Agreed. I like that one. That's a good shout.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think a lot of people have been after a command HISS for a long time.
Well, and I like it too, because it's not just let's do a vintage vehicle exactly as it was, but in newer form. It's actually a new idea from an existing concept. I really like that a lot.
Yeah.
And it's a HISS tank. I mean, I think we all agree that a HISS tank can sell.
I don't know.
So
I don't know. It didn't quite reach 30K, did it? So it's a bit of a failure.
Right. But then I think that I tried to target having about 6 figures, because I didn't want to overdo it sitting here talking about figures, but the truth is I could go for more than 6 in a HasLab would be good. Like Justin said, we need more O-ring figures per year. It doesn't feel like enough of them are coming out.
I think with O-ring you can get away with way more figures, and I think when it comes like Classified, I think you're at like a 4-figure kind of limit, maybe a bit more if it does really, really well. But I think with O-ring they've already proven it. Like if they can reach those stretch goals, loads of figures, wouldn't it? What would you end up with? Ace, Wayne Ruthell, Scarlet, Night Force Ripcord, the 3 Cobras. Was that 7? 7 figures?
That's 7. Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah. Okay, so go nuts, Pat. Tell us
and also, whenever I was kind of putting these together, I had it in my head, try to at least have in there some figures that would also make sense for them to reuse outside of the HasLab.
Definitely.
With that in mind, the first one that I was going to put in his tank was Red Jackal.
Nice.
I think that getting him out in some form would be nice. I don't think that he needs to perfectly match the vintage Red Jackal at all. For some reason, I've always pictured Red Jackal kind of playing into... I know in the comic, he's part robotic.
Yeah, a lot of him is, yeah.
Yeah, so if they could play into that in some way, but yet still make him look like he uses... still utilizing the vintage Destro mold, maybe a different deco on the head, Maybe put a circuitry deco and then candy it something. I don't know.
I reckon
up with something super creative for that figure.
If you look at the Battle Action Force comics, the head sculpt they kind of try and keep it very true to the original vintage toy, but there is a slight difference in it. It's a lot more simplified. I think if they could do a new head sculpt for it,
even something like that
matched that'd be awesome. Yeah,
that would be awesome. So something that plays into the Action Force comics, but differentiates him a little bit more from Destro is exactly what I'm looking for.
Yeah, and also they could do a different torso without the molded...
without the molded, since they're doing things in 3D without the medallion.
Thank you, the medallion, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. All those are good ideas. Maybe even some... Destro's the one that usually is depicted with grenades on his left wrist, even though the toy just has buttons. But you could do that in order to make it a little more enticing.
Absolutely.
And then the other figure I had in there is I kind of wanted, ever since the issue of the comic where Tomax and Zaymot, I think, first show up, it's definitely a circus issue of the comic. There's the Crimson Guard in that are actually HISS drivers. So I think there's a little bit of an option there to blend the Crimson Guard with the HISS drivers and kind of come up with an early, I don't know, blend of the two that could be it would just make for an interesting figure.
Chris Driver.
Sure.
Chris Driver.
So that's
what is that? And
Two figures.
Sorry, that's ridiculous. Yeah,
that
that's
gives
cool.
me 2 figures.
Awesome. I like
and
that.
then my third one, and obviously you see the repaint potential here as well.
Yeah.
But the Overlord mold, but released as Cobra Commander, which is how we've seen it in the Dave Dorman art that's been around online forever. I think that would be a great release. If it's a command hit, give it a Cobra Commander, and I would love to have that figure in that tank. I think it'd be great.
And also shout out to Dan K, because I'm flashing up an image from his book right now. So thank you, Dan, from creating G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero. And that was issue 1, I believe. I had to throw back on that one. But again, I like having them at hand just to kind of like quickly take a picture of so we can use them on these shows. But yeah, I think that's a good shout out, Pat. Big time.
And then I have Big Boa.
Nice.
I think that we need to trickle out some of these characters. And Big Boa is training people, right? So in this set, he's going to come with 2 trainees. One of them is Cadet Deming.
Nice.
She's a cadet, so Big Boa may be actually doing some training with her. And the other one would just be the Cobra trainee from, I think it's the Countdown for Zartan episode.
Yeah.
Where they actually, it looks like such a simple figure to actually make, because it's the Cobra body, neck to toe, with what looks like could be a Firefly head.
Yeah.
And then the weapons from Blowtorch. And that's what one of the figures is. And then they have a different Cobra rifle at one point, so give them that as well. But I think that would be a great set.
Just out of interest, Pat, how do you tie in with it being the Command HISS? What's the storyline behind incorporating Big Boa and all the others? It's a
2-part set.
Oh, okay.
What in my mind is this is Ultimate Enemies, so I'm not going to spoil what the second part is.
Gotcha. Okay. We'll be joining that a little bit later on after I've gone through my first O-ring option.
I'd rather just hear Pat's. We can skip you.
Son of an... You haven't been here for about 1 million episodes. He turns up and he's throwing it around.
Yeah.
Actually, if you want to go and do your second part as well, Pat.
Let's do this in order. Let's keep the suspense.
Keep the structure going. Okay. Yeah. Well, here's the bit you can skip through, guys. If you know me, you know very well that one of my favorite things in G.I. Joe are the playsets. And, like I've had ultimate fun, ultimate enemies with things like the Mobile Command Center, with the General, with all these amazing playsets that are also vehicles sometimes. Now, the one I want to do, which I think is quite funny because it's actually just a pure playset. There's no like vehicle about it, like I just mentioned the other two. But the one I want to do is the transportable tactical battle platform. And I think this is where, with O-Ring, they could go absolutely bonkers. Because for one thing, size, with the original, is not as big as you probably remember it. If you're not like seeing it all the time, like we are, or playing with it all the time, or getting a new one when you're older, then you may have forgotten the size of it. It's not massive. And because of that, I think there's scope here to make something a lot bigger and a lot cooler, even though I think the transportable tactical battle platform is perfection already. I think you could do something even crazier. And at O-Ring scale, you can get away with it because obviously, you're almost expecting a katana or a Razor Crest or something that's like a bit, has something more about it, And the detail you could go into with this as well would be insane. And I think you could do so many cool things. So as a play set for one, it's great, and they could reissue it. But if they were to do this as a HasLab, I think making the legs longer, so obviously making the extension much taller, so you could really have like a towering kind of play set. Obviously make the base of it much wider and bigger, but then also make it multi-platform, multi-level. I don't think the drop-down kind of ramp needs to be folded up. I think that could slide underneath or between two levels, as it were. I don't, so that could be kind of slide out of the way and then be hidden, as opposed to kind of becoming one with the actual main base. The computer room could be like way more complex and have a roof on it finally, so they could get the money finally to keep the rain and water off of the very expensive electrical equipment, people. And then things like a much taller, bigger helipad. But what I'm thinking of when I say multi-level, I'm thinking things like this, and stop me if you think this is cool, but like a little shark bay, right? So how you get those, like you can have it so that it goes all the way down into the water, right? Like say you look at the back where the helipad is, right? And you're looking at it and the legs are there either side. You know how you see those kind of like bays where they come in and there's still water inside, and there's like a little platform with a little like, where the figures can go and they can, help the guy out of the shark and so on and so forth. How cool would that be in as an interior aspect to the underneath of this? Like, I've seen that in so many different things. Like, I played Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, I think it was. And when you have to kind of go up to an oil rig at one point, but you have to approach in like these little electric kind of like subs and stuff. It's so cool. But they come out of the water and there's one of those little bays where there's like, platforms and stuff like that. So I think that would, the opportunity to do details like that on the underneath would be so cool. And to finally have a bay that we've seen in the cartoon, we've seen that kind of stuff, not necessarily on a transportable battle platform, but in different kind of arenas and different visuals. So I think that would be cool. But then also like a little bunk system so that you could have little sleeping quarters underneath, like things like that. So like maybe 2 levels, nothing too crazy, but the bottom level would be that kind of self-contained like shark port with a few little like areas for people to kind of like sleep and stuff like that. So I think that would be kind of cool. On top of that, then obviously you talk about the figures, don't you? And what figures would you get with this? And this is, again, there's a lot of cool stuff to kind of take from this. And obviously my heart is with version 2 Deep 6. I think that is a beautiful figure. And as ridiculous as it is, because it is like a real throwback in terms of technology. It's not something super futuristic, is it? Like this is like something that you'd see in, the 40s or something. And I just think it's got a lot of what's the word, like charm to it, basically. Mm-hmm. So I think Deep 6, obviously Wetsuit would be a good one to bring in here. Shipwreck, but then if you look at the first appearance of it in the comics, this is where I think you could have even more fun with it. And this isn't a figure. Obviously, I will flash up Gung Ho holding a giant wrench. Because I think that's brilliant. I just love the fact that it's like that's it. It's like it's a big thing that they've got to put together, guys. Grab your tools, and all the tools are massive, like they're all like tiny action figures. It's brilliant. So I love the fact that you could have a Gung Ho with a giant wrench as one of the figures. You could also have this flotation device that they use to hook up the legs in the issue, and that flotation device could make it a playset that could then operate in the middle of a swimming pool. Like it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be like right close to the land where the artwork suggests it is. You could have it right out there in a pool, like you playing on it. Think of the toy photography on that. How cool would that be in the middle of there? Like I just think there's so many cool things they could do with that. And then you've got like battle damage figures. You could have like Snowjob and Ripcord who get beaten up in that issue. Doc, obviously, who is pretty prominent. Barbecue, who's pretty prominent again in that issue. That's my shout for the tactical battle platform. And of course, all the other aspects just hyped up to 1,000. Like the winch, which could be mechanical. and like electronics, sorry. To a degree, like I'm not, it could just be wind up, but you could do something like that. And then like, you could have like, the all the different weapons and stuff around. That's my shout on that one. I mean, what do you guys think on the tactical battle platform?
Well, how large of a helipad are you talking about? Are you talking dragonfly size or
probably
tomahawk size?
I don't know, probably dragonfly. I wouldn't expect a tomahawk. Well, it would be great, wouldn't it, to have a tomahawk land on that thing? Like, I'm not lying, that would be cool as hell. But then if that's if you imagine that position,
that's huge.
Right? Imagine that position, right, Pat, on your flotation device in your pool, and you put an Eagle Hawk / Tomahawk on that. It's going to go. Isn't it? So I think, that's obviously a consideration. It would probably only be Skyhawks and Dragonflies that would be the best option for that.
I like your thought of the extending platform, though, going underneath as well, because that's a lot of real estate on the top of the tactical battle platform that is used just for that thing to fold up.
Yeah, and I always found it a bit kind of awkward because when it folds up, you've got all the open, like, elements of all the details of it rather than like a flat surface kind of thing. Anyway, cool. What about you, Justin?
I think it's a great idea. I mean, you're exactly right. Like the battle platform, as cool as it was, and I still remember. I'm going to kind of go off topic a little bit again, but like back when I was getting back into G.I. Joe collecting, in the late '90s. The battle platform was actually the first thing I bought online from a fellow collector when I started getting into those various. They were all news groups back then, news groups and mailing lists before there was even a whole lot of message boards and things. So as soon as I got back into it, I was like, the battle platform. I don't remember what happened to my vintage one, but I no longer had it. So that was one of the first things I bought.
I still have the box, and it's immaculate. Sorry, Karen.
That's awesome. But it's nice because it's got a lot of features, but it's a pretty compact size.
Yeah.
So you could kind of carry it around and do whatever you play with it in various different locations. But I like the way you're describing it rather than building it out a whole lot. I mean, you are building it out some, but you're also building it up. So I think that still maintains some of that portability if you want to take it to various places. I really like that idea.
You could also make it so that the legs were also part of the structure of the two levels, so that you could extend it so that they would be open out, so you could actually utilize the port a little bit better and the bunk and everything. And then you could just drop it down and it would lock in place, and you wouldn't have that anymore. It would just be like a normal I've already designed this. It's already done.
I can tell. I think you've got like blueprints or whatever on the desk in front of you. You got this all like arranged. But I love the idea, and just kind of listening to you describe it kind of takes me back to some, playing with some of these play sets and just things that kids these days don't appreciate, just how much detail they crammed into those G.I. Joe play sets, even the relatively small stuff back in the day. I mean, it was amazing kind of what they did, and unfortunately not many companies are mirroring that today, but I think this is a really cool way to kind of allow people to revisit those golden years where, every inch of the battle platform was filled with like these cool recessed panels or computer consoles or different chairs that swiveled, and of course the missile launchers, the cranes, and that sort of stuff in the dock. But it'd be a good opportunity. Plus, I think the G.I. Joe designers should have a lot of fun kind of.
I think it would be great, wouldn't it? Cool. That'd be awesome. Also,
it would be cool.
Work in Spotlight too, because that would be dope. That would be really cool.
Yeah, and another point about taking a classic concept and making it bigger and better. Kind of like how Patrick was suggesting for the H.A.S, I think is a really cool idea, rather than just saying like how closely does it mirror the '85 original. Oh, they made it bigger and better. I think that's nice.
Well, in relation to my one. Justin, your second option is actually, again, like I said, like there's a close knit kind of relationship going on here. So go ahead and take us through your second option if you'd like, sir.
Yeah, well, I mean, you mentioned kind of the first appearance of the battle platform, and my second option is
from the same issue, isn't it? It's from the
same exact issue. Yeah, and it's if people haven't guessed, for some reason we got a water theme going on here, which is funny because I'm not necessarily a huge fan of water vehicles, but these two are kind of hallmarks of the G.I. Joe Armory and Cobra Armory. So I went with the Cobra Moray hydrofoil as another O-ring HasLab.
Nice.
And some of the same reasons as the whale. I mean, the hydrofoil was certainly more available in later years than the whale was. It was repurposed a couple times during
you get Tiger Force one.
There's the Tiger Force convention one, and then that same year they had the one with the blue hull as well, and then there was a Toys R Us exclusive like Night Force one that came out a little bit later. So it was around, but it had some of its little tooling quirks that I think modern design could improve on. Sort of the lever that activated the front missiles, kind of sometimes got unhitched and didn't work so great. Those tiny little gun turrets in the back were kind of easily lost. I think they could make some really cool modern improvements, and then of course like the blast effects, for the missile launch, missiles launching out of the front.
Awesome.
The big massive cannons and all the small turrets, and then the turret on the roof. A whole bunch of different ways you could make it look really cool. And again, some kind of display where it could be like cruising. You can do like water kind of splashing out from both sides. It's kind of moving through the ocean or whatever. Just some really cool effects. It's just always been the Moray hydrofoil has been one of my favorite vehicles, which is odd because, as I said, I'm not usually a huge fan of water vehicles just because it kind of limits where you can use it. But I think the Moray is one of those exceptions where it's just always been really fascinating and really great. And I just think there's a lot of cool stuff you can do. And what I'm kind of, it's funny because as you kind of suggested what we might want to, we might start want to think about the O-ring HasLabs. Me, who is usually very much like, don't just redo vintage, come up with something new. I just redid vintage, and you guys are coming up with all this new stuff. But so I kind of wish I thought a little bit more outside the box. But I just think this vehicle is so cool that there's a lot of different options for it.
I think your choices are solid. The whale and the Moray are top vehicles. That would both be awesome. And again, you could increase, as for a HasLab as well, you could increase certain aspects of them, not just in size, but in features and, like you say, and all the display options, and it would be awesome.
Exactly, yeah, and it would have to come with a lamprey or two and Cobra eels, and toyed with the idea of maybe some wetsuit clad Cobra officers like Baroness or Destro. Or
I was just about to say that's perfect, isn't it? You could definitely throw in the Sunbow wetsuits, couldn't you? As in the whole heavy water scenario, and even I think Pyramid of Darkness as well. We
haven't gotten like the Cobra Diver from the 25th in an O-ring format either.
Exactly. So. Yep. Yeah, that was something that did occur to me. You could have maybe a regular, familiar 85 eel that they could potentially, repurpose in a 2-pack. So you didn't have to buy the HasLab for it. Then also have some of those Cobra Divers and the Baroness and Destro, and then kind of their Sunbow accurate dive suits. Hydro Viper would be amazing.
Although you'd have to army build it.
That's the problem with sticking troopers in these HasLab things. You're gonna piss off some people. You're gonna have to make them available. Like maybe they could do a Hydro Viper and Eels 2-pack, for retail sale, for more common sale, and do some kind of unique deco for these versions. I don't know.
You'll get a lamprey female gunner, and you'll get a lamprey hydrofoil tactician as well.
There you go.
And they'll make Ron do all the color studies for it. That's really cool, actually, mate. I again, it's one of those vehicles that I love seeing, and it's so, and I think there's more scope to make it closer to where you see it in like the cartoon and stuff like that. That back end needs to be a bit bigger so you can get a few more troops on there, but then also you've got space then to maybe go underneath. Well, go into space underneath, and again have like cool features inside that otherwise you wouldn't see on the smaller scale. So I think that's wicked.
Those like torpedoes that could actually launch from those mount points and stuff. That'd be pretty cool. Stuff like that.
So awesome. Great, good shout, Justin. Like that one. Yeah. Do you like the hydrofoil, Pat? I imagine.
I do, and I like that Justin kind of did almost the same thing I did, where his two options for his O-ring HasLabs are kind of work in conjunction with each other.
Yeah.
Because I can definitely see both of those with the water effects underneath them.
then
maybe
combine.
the hydrofoil like blasting water with a little bit of an air pocket versus the I could see that. That would look good on a shelf.
And also, maybe
They're
like
right at each other.
Yeah, maybe like the two dioramas would just look really like would work. Maybe they're connected together in some way. But
absolutely, that'd be great.
That'd be pretty dope. Yeah, I like the thought of that. Okay, cool. I'll get this on. I'll get to messaging Lenny later. Okay, Pat, I believe it is you now for option 2. So you can. This is the suspense, guys. It's over. Go on, Pat. Tell us what we've got to enjoy.
Okay, so for mine, the centerpiece of it is going to be a vamp. And I'm actually kind of open to a lot of ideas here, enhancing the vamp a bit.
Okay.
I think the 25th one did enhance the vamp a bit.
Yeah.
With giving it, actual plastic for the headlights and some things like that. And that's certainly something that I would like to see here. Another option that I've always imagined.
Command vamp. Sorry.
That's about what I'm about to say. Because if you look at the inspiration for the vamp, which was the Lamborghini Cheetah, it actually is a 4-seater.
There you go.
So I could see extending the front out and creating a set of back seats to put into like an extended like Vamp Mark 0 or a Vamp Mark 1.5 or something.
You could do a Desert Fox thing and stick a couple more wheels at the back too, couldn't you?
I'd probably want it to look more like the original Vamp by not having extra. You could.
I'm just trying to think of like differentiating it, but no, that's cool, man.
You could. Yeah. Pat wouldn't be caught dead doing that. You could do it, Chris. Yeah. He wouldn't sully his Vamp idea with extra wheels.
Yeah, but just some options are out there, because in my mind, this also could just be a standard original Vamp that is decoed as the personalized Vamp for the main character, which is Rocky Balboa.
Amazing.
My thinking is, it's been so many years. I get it. Rocky ended up not part of the G.I. Joe line. But a few weeks ago on the Weekly, we were talking about people who we thought should be added, maybe. That would be good to add to the line. And I don't know how I didn't mention Rocky, because they could maybe work a deal with Stallone now.
Yeah.
I mean, why not do it now? That would be huge news in the toy world if you could take that page from the Marvel comic, and actually redact the redacted, and like the the name Rocky Balboa now does identify a member of G.I. Joe, and just try to make the figure exactly as he originally was. We could see the package art here, and there is other stuff out there that I've seen.
So this makes sense now, because obviously Big Bo was in your previous
right
thing,
and I was picturing this as a G.I. Joe Ultimate Enemies kind of situation. So definitely having Rocky, I think that'd be a successful HasLab. I think it probably would be just a successful release. Truthfully, if they were going to work a deal with Stallone, I think that would be, you'd have to definitely do a figure. You wouldn't want to leave it up to the potential of the HasLab not succeeding.
Exactly, yeah.
But if they did work to deal with Stallone, just make a 6-inch figure for sure.
That's and do what I was going to say.
1/4-inch HasLab.
Done and done.
I think that the fun and the excitement and the adrenaline that gets out there in the toy world from a crowdfunding project could be beneficial to having Stallone agree to this.
Brilliant.
Yep.
And I think that would just be awesome.
So in terms of deco, are you thinking like the similar to his costume? So like that kind of black with the red, white, and blue stripes running across it or something?
Yes. Just as he's seen here in the picture that we're looking at now. Just
awesome.
Make that as a figure, just as it would have been.
I'm talking about the vamp. I'm talking about the vamp. I'm talking about the vamp deco.
Oh, the vamp deco.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. No, I don't. You know what I probably would do is I probably would look back to the Rocky movies for inspiration. I haven't watched those in a while, but there might be something in there, like one of his cars. He did buy a nice car for himself.
What about the same deco as the robot from like Rocky?
Oh yeah, Paulie's robot.
Yeah. There you go. Sorted.
Polly's robot, I have the Super 7 one, and now that you mentioned that, I'm going to have Polly's robot battle the Cobra security robot whenever that comes in.
Amazing.
Yeah, but no, I think that having a vamp decoed specific for Rocky and just making this be a Rocky Ultimate Enemies against Big Boa in the HISS set is kind of what my mind, where my mind was.
Yeah.
And rounding out the set, you've got to include some other figures.
Yeah.
That I think it would be just kind of fun to finally have. First up, one of the figures that I've always kind of wanted to see, and I think that he could definitely be an ultimate enemy to
Red Jackal,
is Ton Up. Because
Nice.
Ton Up is really just a version 1 rock and roll figure.
Yep.
But like I said with Red Jackal, give Ton Up the same treatment where you're going to differentiate him from rock and roll. Because also, as I said, some of these things I have in there with the potential in mind for them to be released as the same mold to be released as a separate figure. So you'd probably have rock and roll as in a 2-pack somewhere, and then Ton Up would be in this set, and maybe he'd have like, you know, a different color green, maybe in that sweet Action Force green to like match
that'd be
tank.
cool.
Almost like
That'd be really cool.
Yeah, like a Z Force kind of green. Yeah, that
or two-tone, like make his pants a different color than his shirt. Do something to differentiate him from rock and roll. I think would be awesome.
Yeah, totally. I'm up for that.
And then also in Super 7 just did it, but this is one that I still want as an O-ring figure. CoverGirl in green with the blonde hair from the cartoon.
Brilliant.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just, that's going to be a winning figure. In addition to that, back in like some of the very earliest issues of the comic book, as well as the commercial for the comic book, you had Colonel Hawk in a baseball cap.
And it also happened during the Cobra Island Civil War by accident in one issue as well, by the way. There's in one issue he's wearing the helmet, and then he's all of a sudden he's fighting the Dreadnoks, and then literally the next issue he's in his original gear with the green hat on. And then the issue after that back to normal again. It's like, what? Wasn't
that middle one, was that Marshall Rogers was like a fill-in artist or something? I'm trying to remember how that all transpired. I think it had a different artist in between, so I think it got a little bit scrambled.
Again, this is all reference material that must be causing these things to happen.
Oh yeah, I'm sure
that's why the Crimson Guard looked like HISS drivers, unless maybe they just didn't have reference for Crimson Guards yet.
Maybe they saw the HISS driver and said, well, he's Crimson and he's a guard, maybe that's the Crimson Guard.
Yeah, that's possible. But yeah, I think that Hawk, and then what does that give me? That gives me Rocky, Ton Up, that gives me 4, and I said 6. So for the other ones, and these are kind of easy ones to just insert there, to kind of also boost the popularity of the set, because let's give a couple of popular characters in ways that, you know, I would like to see them. One of them is Stalker, and the other one's Snake Eyes. Version 1 for both.
Yeah. And
Stalker and Snake Eyes would kind of match the desert tan colors of Grunt and Clutch from the original run.
So you're trying to do an OG-13 in tan almost, aren't you? At this point,
you know, Brian Kaufman did one as a custom, and it's a great looking set. And I think that just doing it officially, bit by bit, is a winning idea.
Totally,
I think it's a good idea.
No, that's cute, man. I like that. Nice little addition. Yeah, cool. Again, like I love the thought of a command vamp. I think when I said that in my head, loads of things started growing on it. Do you know what I mean? It started becoming this ridiculous thing, and I know you're kind of like, no, wind it back in, McLeod, because I know you
just a 4-seater vamp,
4-seater. Get Rocky in there. Make it the same. Make it a nice deco homage to something from the movies. I like that thought. Yeah, it's cool, man. I like it, and it goes well with the other kind of part of that HasLab too, which is effectively 2 separate HasLabs, like you say, but they're almost like live together, don't they? That's cool, man. I like it.
Yeah,
I think that's a great idea. Yeah, I mean, the whole. I think you bring up a great point with the whole getting Stallone's likeness and how that would appeal to sort of a mass market. You know, it would really get the collector juices flowing, I think, outside of the somewhat narrow scope of G.I. Joe fans themselves. And I think that would be a great way to get some publicity. Do it as a classified figure, like you said, and then include the O-ring version in a HasLab. I think that'd be fantastic.
Awesome. Okay then. Well, next up then, and this is the final O-ring option for me and for us, and before we move on to classified HasLabs. And my final O-ring option, I was kind of like umming and erring between two. I wanted to do a Cobra one, and I was thinking, but the other one I want is kind of probably more, is kind of coming through a bit stronger. The Cobra one I was thinking obviously was the Aspid, and I know a lot of people have wanted that for a long period of time, so it felt like a little bit too, like it wasn't my decision. It was like it's been like something that everyone has kind of wanted for so long. The transport helicopter, you know, the cool, like the mouth on it and all the cool design elements and everything. It would be amazing, and I think it would make for a great HasLab. So I think that is, and I also kind of feel like that's probably bound to happen at some point. I feel like that's going to happen sooner rather than later. I don't know, but Pat doesn't agree.
I felt sorry that I didn't choose this one whenever I saw you insert pictures.
The minute I saw that picture too, I'm like, what was I thinking?
Well,
I mean,
I've also haven't chosen it either. So that's the funniest thing about this.
This is how this doesn't get made, is that everybody just kind of feels like, hey, that's inevitable. We don't have to put it back. It's 2022 now, you know, it's only been 30 years.
But I mean, it's crazy, isn't it? Because, I mean, there aren't many, like, iconic vehicles in G.I. Joe and Cobra that haven't been done in some way, shape or form. And the Aspid still has gotten away with it, like, for so long. And, you know, despite, like, numerous customs, etc., etc. Anyway, and I think it would be gorgeous. I'd love to see it done. I'd love to see it either in blue or in that kind of really cool, like, comic purple, kind of lilac-y purple that you always see it in. In terms of, like, and I'm still gonna give a few little ideas for it, but, like, I'd love to see, you know, again, packed full of features. The section, obviously, maybe it can come with lots of different central sections. Like, it could come with, like, a what are they called, like containment units, basically, that could, you know, switch out, so you could have multiple different containment units that it picks up. Obviously, the winch would be mechanical and electronic. You could also have, like, the ability to carry other vehicles and things like that, so it would, like, hold them in that section. You could have, like, a netting rope thing, like that could hold, like, you know, big crates. So you could have them, like, hanging from the bottom of the thing, like, you know, on a long rope. Just cool things like that. In terms of figures, I mean, you've got multiple, like, Cobra Air Force kind of options here, haven't you? You've got, like, the 25th pilot with that kind of red helmet on, like, a trooper body, basically, that you could kind of, like, you know, do as an O-ring figure, which I don't think we have. We haven't had that, have we? That would be like a reverse engineered situation, wouldn't it?
Right.
So yeah, that's another thing I think would be kind of cool in the O-ring line. Funnily enough, I'm giving all of this time to it, but at the same time, it is not my final choice for O-ring, I'm afraid.
There's a Cobra pilot too that could go with this. That's from the comic book.
Yes, which
that would be also ideal.
We've discussed that too, haven't we? In previous chat where we talked about HasLabs, funnily enough. Or vehicles that we wanted to see done in the G.I. Joe line. But so I mean, it's high up there, the Aspid. But the thing I'm just going to say it. You guys can fill in everything else, but it's the Sunbow HQ. That for me is what I want to see as a HasLab. And I want to see it done ridiculously. I want it massive. I want it stupid. I want like loads of cool stuff, like, you know, again, like new opportunities for new O-ring, like, options here. And you could even do, I'm just saying this, you could even have the assault course that Tunnel Rat and Big Lob go over, like, as an exterior thing, like an add-on or something, you know, like because obviously this thing would be like an L shape, and that would be the base. But then you'd have this space that you could, like, utilize. Maybe it would be on a mat, or maybe it would be on some sort of, like, you know, I don't know, like card or something, some sort of card stock. I don't know it wouldn't be plastic, but some sort of base that you could have some, like, extra things on outside of the base. Anyway, like I said, there's so many options you could throw in there. There's, though, you know, the Baroness who dresses up as one of those random, like, freelance security guards, and she runs off like laughing, taking the helmet off. You could have the Baroness in disguise. You could have those as figures as well. You could have green shirts as O-ring figures. You could have I was going to say silly little animation errors, but like a white dock, and all of those kind of random things that happen in the film. But then again, in so many different episodes, the shutter could like electronically move up as well, and you can have vehicles actually come out of it that would fit in that, And I know it sounds ridiculous and big and stupid, but I want the Sunbow HQ, and I want it bigger than the original toy HQ. I rest my case.
Well, this is a dream after all, so might as well dream big, right?
Would you be interested though in an HQ like that as a HasLab?
I wouldn't.
Space and features.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, space and features. That's probably a good point. I mean, you get to a point where things are a little bit too big, which I would be concerned with. To give this the heft and that it deserves, it would almost need to be huge. If it was modular in some way, so you could choose to display parts of it and kind of disassemble it and rearrange it, and so you could use put the facade on sort of a narrow shelf that gave the impression of the Sunbow HQ without actually displaying the full Sunbow HQ, or if you could take apart the obstacle course or something like that and do something with that separately, that would have potential. It would have to be huge, and as a result of its size, I'm sure it would be crazy expensive. So I mean that would all kind of go into whether or not
made out of diamonds.
I'd be up for that.
And it's made out of diamonds and gold. I didn't say that before, did I? Sorry. Okay. So it's going to be about 3 trillion each.
Oh, beautiful.
Cool.
Enjoy that one.
Well, anyway, I
at least they only need one backer to fund it, pretty much, probably, if it's going to be that much.
Me.
Yeah, you.
It's bankrupt living in it, because that's the only thing I can afford to live in now. Well, that was basically that's all the O-ring stuff. I couldn't help myself, unfortunately, but I had to throw in the HQ because, again, I'm such a play set person that I had to have that in there. Anyway, okay. Hey there guys, just wanted to let you know about an app that I've been helping to develop for a few years now called Hoarder. But what is Hoarder, I hear you scream? Well, a number of years ago I discussed a project with a good friend of mine and now co-owner/developer about an app that could help collectors of all shapes and sizes. I'm talking about the shapes and sizes of the collections really, but also people. The app would be a place where you could share your new items, build collections and sub-collections, or just browse the feed to see cool things. Well, we made it. We tested it for a number of years, and now it's out there for you to enjoy on iOS or Android devices. You can upload a single item at a time at your own pace and slowly build your collections. You can post status updates that could be related to your collections, like getting a delivery or posting a scene in which you can tag items in that image if you've uploaded them in the past. You can add tags to your items in order to easily search for and find them, and of course to add them into your respective collections. You can like posts, comment on them, or start a conversation with a fellow collector, directly message users you follow, and even add items you see on your feed to your want list. If you prefer to use your computer or laptop, have no fear, you can use the website browser version and even utilise the awesome inventory option, allowing any user to change certain details, add notes, upload bulk items from spreadsheet files, and download a CSV of your entire itemised collection. We made this app for collectors, and we hope that you enjoy using it as much as we enjoyed creating it. Now get to hoarding. So we've done all our O-rings. Now it's time for classified. Justin, we're coming back to you, buddy, for your classified option number 1.
Yep.
Go for it.
I think I might throw you a little curveball, because I gave you an idea earlier, and I'm still going with that idea, but I feel like I need to expand it a little bit, kind of in thinking how I approach this. My initial idea for the classified HasLab was Destro and his despoiler, like the Iron Grenadier version of Destro with his one-man vehicle, which I'm sticking with. I really love that vehicle and that figure. I think they're very popular among the fandom. I think it could fund. But when you compare that to the HIS, it's obviously pretty small. I could see folks saying, well, they did Serpentor in the air chariot. Couldn't you do something similar for this without it being a HasLab?
Yeah.
And I can see that point. So I was thinking sort of maybe a Destro and his despoiler maybe versus a Skyhawk maybe with a Joe pilot, like Grand Slam or something like that.
Nice.
And Grand Slam could also come with a jump jetpack. And you get sort of an Iron Grenadier version of Destro. Perhaps like a sergeant major Iron Grenadier officer, to kind of, who could be an army builder, but could also be, sort of his second in command.
Yeah.
And then, on the Joe side of things, we'd have Grand Slam and maybe another Joe to kind of accompany him. So I haven't fleshed that out quite fully because as we were kind of going through this process, I'm kind of thinking Destro and the Despoiler just isn't enough. I mean, not for a HasLab. I think they really need a bigger bang for the buck, even if I think the Despoiler could come with a pretty awesome display stand, like we've talked about, like a jet gust coming out of the back.
Yeah.
I think you could complement that with the Skyhawk coming with like 2 engine thrusts for the vertical engines that are on that as well. Blast effects for the launching, skid mounted rockets. I think there's a lot of cool stuff you could do. And I know, I think Iron Grenadier Destro is a pretty big draw for folks, I believe. I mean, he's one of my favorite versions of the character. I'm not sure if he is sort of in the public zeitgeist quite as much as the classic version is, but I still think it would be a big appeal for folks. And once Hasbro starts getting into sort of the Iron Grenadier side of things, I could see a lot of people looking for that
Voltar,
figures.
Finally. Yeah. Annihilators. Targats. It would just be non-stop Iron Grenadiers, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, every time somebody says, well, geez, Hasbro's already got 100 figures, they're burning through their roster, I just think they haven't even touched the Iron Grenadiers yet, and there's tons of them.
Close. We've had no, other than the reveal of Torpedo, we've had no water-based characters, and Shipwreck, obviously. All of a sudden, I think that it's going to start flooding in, no pun intended, but like we haven't had. There's so much stuff we haven't had. So much. So like that. That's crazy talk. That's just crazy talk.
Yeah, I think the Iron Grenadiers are like they're one of who I consider one of the most important factions in the brand. I mean, you've got G.I. Joe, Cobra, you got Dreadnoks, and then I think Iron Grenadiers is pretty close to that 4 spot, just very closely behind Dreadnoks. I think, in my opinion. You
forgot European exclusive Tiger Force. That goes in.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, maybe 5th then next to the Tiger Force.
What about Fun School Sonic Fighters? I'm just kidding. Right. I'll have to say on that one, Justin, as well, I agree with what you're saying. I think they could just do Destro and his Despoiler. I think that could just be. Okay. I think that could be done probably with a lot of those things you've just actually talked about, other than not the extra figures. But I think that could be done very, very comfortably, like in the similar way to Serpentor, and I know that's why you've added the kind of versus scenario, which I think again would be cool and would work. And I know a lot of people have said they were expecting, was it a Vamp versus a HISS tank? What people were saying originally, until they saw the HISS tank and it was revealed. It was like, oh yeah, okay, I see. So I think if you're kind of aiming for something in that size, I mean, you could you not do what's the other one called? The one that kind of like folds down and kind of
the demon.
It's the demon, isn't it? Yeah.
I actually had that in my head. I was like, well, what if they did Destro and the Despoiler as a retail version, and then did a HasLab demon that the Despoiler could kind of fit on like it did in the vintage days? That would be pretty cool. The demon would be huge. I don't know if they could go that big for a vehicle that's sort of obscure. I mean, I think for G.I. Joe fans, everybody knows who the demon is, but for outside of the G.I. Joe fandom, I'm not sure. You wouldn't get 30K backers on a demon in classified scale, I don't think so. What
was the Megatron, the recent third-party Megatron that copied a certain vehicle? Do you remember? You know what I'm talking about?
Was it the Dominator?
But was it the Dominator or was it the demon?
It was, it was the Dominator.
Dominator, okay. I couldn't
remember. They added a third cockpit, I think.
Yeah, that was it, yeah. Anyway, cool. So let's. I'm just saying. I'm changed your idea now to a demon.
No, it's fun. Go for it. I love the demon. The demon is one of my favorite vehicles too, and I think it has potential to be a really cool classified vehicle. I'm just not sure it would fund. I'm amazed when I'm in several kind of classified G.I. Joe groups on Facebook and various places, and whenever people post their wish lists, I'm actually pretty shocked that I almost never see anybody say anything about the Iron Grenadiers. It's like nobody really seems to,
Which is
it's
funny.
not at the top of anybody's mind, but really I think there's so many great characters just from a design perspective and from who they are. I think that
it
is
used to be
a really unheralded faction.
I mean, I would see when I'd go on like forums, everyone would be an Iron Grenadier this or an Iron Grenadier that, or they'd have like avatars that would suggest that was a thing. So it is. Yeah. I agree with you. I think that's weird that we don't see it more in classified talk, but maybe that's due to the audience that has slightly changed. Maybe,
possibly, yeah. Drawing in 6-inch fans from other brands like Marvel and stuff like that, and maybe aren't quite as as fully immersed in G.I. Joe history as we might be. Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah. There's also not a lot of art out there depicting the Iron Grenadiers together as a team.
That's true.
Yeah, that's
you
true.
see a lot of Cobra Commander standing there with like Storm Shadow next to him, and Destro and Baroness and Firefly. You never see like Destro standing there with Voltar and Metalhead and Undertows and
Annihilators and Targets.
You don't see that. You don't really see that.
Yeah, and it's weird. Even when they appeared in the comic, they had a tendency to sort of interchange them a little bit. Like you would, I seem to remember when Mark Bright, especially, was doing some of those issues in the hundreds, you would often see Annihilators kind of mixed in with regular Vipers and stuff, which was odd because that took place after the Civil War, which was very much sort of an Iron Grenadier versus Cobra sort of. There was some of that faction stuff there. So, I think you're right. I think they don't always carve out Iron Grenadiers as its own thing. It's usually kind of, they're just sort of there and not really established as their own identity.
Yeah, and any of us who are fans get excited just by seeing them. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
Now you've got me fired up for a classified Annihilator with his helicopter backpack and stuff.
Oh yeah,
awesome.
Yeah.
That's going to be dope when it hits. Pat, you're up for your first classified HasLab buddy. Take it away.
Okay, so mine is kind of with the thought of giving it some time.
About 6 years.
You can't do this next.
Okay.
It can't even be probably after that. And I wouldn't necessarily do my his tank in the 3 3/4 inch right away either. Because
spoiler alert,
mass media is going to be like, wasn't there just a his tank?
So this is a his tank, is what you're saying.
This is a his tank, yes. Totally. I'm just going with the his tank again. I'm a fan of his tanks. But I think that now that the his tank exists, there should be, at least now that the tooling exists, there should be the possibility to do another his tank.
Yeah.
With a tow behind this time.
Nice. And
have it be... Because I really think that what's going to happen is the black his tank is going to get out there, and there inexplicably are going to be people who will go, where did that thing come from? His tank's my favorite G.I. Joe vehicle. I didn't know they were doing that. And it's like, were you under a rock? Where were you? But there are going to be people who missed out. And I think that there's an opportunity here with the fact that a red his tank is kind of your classic second color for the his tank.
Nice.
There's definitely a lot of options, because in my mind you could actually do something really nice with the finish of it. Maybe make it be like a candied red, or even like a vac metallized. Is that a possibility for the whole red his tank? So make it crazy bright, like a nice color red, and then give it the MMS or the SMS as it was, as a tow behind.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And also the stickers on it. I think that there's clearly 3 options for stickers, because you should probably make it capable of switching in between these things. One of them, of course, being as the Sears SMS was.
Yeah.
And one of them being the Action Force Hyena.
Hell yeah.
And then the other one being the kind of in-between Cobra.
Yeah.
Red Action Force one with Cobra stickers. Like, if you're gonna make those 2 options, then you might as well put that third one in there as well.
Totally, yeah.
That's my thought.
Yeah. No, with the old Action Force Cobra logo.
Yeah, and like the yellow and white stripes on the side.
Yeah, definitely. No, that'd be awesome, man. Again, you can't really go wrong with a his tank, apparently. So I've heard. So I think it would be a pretty good shout. I agree with you though, Pat, on giving it some time on this one, because I think people are reeling from this first.
But even like a good maybe 4 years down the road.
Yeah.
And then revisit this thing. But I think that there's a complement of figures that would make a lot of sense for this. I've always wanted for my O-ring red HISS tank a HISS driver that is just the red and black color swaps. Nothing else fancy with it. So, his mouth would be covered with red cloth. Most of his body would be black.
Cool.
His boots would be red. His gauntlets would be red. And still the silver Cobra logo with the blue on his chest. Just everything kind of swapped. I think that would be what, in my mind, should be the driver for the red HISS tank. Don't know why. Just feels right to me.
That sounds awesome. I like that.
I think the main reason why the HISS driver, anyway, I should say, is red is that it doesn't get lost in the color of the HISS tank. As a vintage toy, when you take a red figure and put it in that black tank, you can still see that figure and he looks awesome driving.
Makes sense.
This is kind of the opposite of that. If you do a red tank, I don't want a red figure driving. I want it to be kind of the opposite. If you had a black HISS driver, pop him in there and he's going to be quite visible. In addition to that, it was a crimson HISS tank. And so I think that you could give it a Crimson Guard, but obviously we're getting the Crimson Guard in the 6-inch line. But this would be an option to do a Fred series Crimson Guard.
Nice.
Do the removable helmet and make it be a Fred in there. Although I will say that probably would be a winner just in the main line. I think that just throwing it in here would also make sense.
Does it also not relate to another figure that you'd like to do in this?
Yes, Fred the Seventh. So I think that giving a Fred the Seventh in this set would kind of create some cohesion, having a couple of Freds in the set, and drive home the fact that it's a Crimson Guard set. And doing Fred, it's just like they did with the 25th. They released Battle Armor Cobra Commander, and they also released Fred the Seventh in that Battle Armor. And I think that you could do that here as well. You could release Fred the Seventh in Battle Armor, and then, later on down the road, release Cobra Commander version 3.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally.
And also, Red Jackal. Again, I'm a fan, so I'm pulling him in once again, and to kind of have a pairing there as well. I think that finding a way to make Red Laser happen would be a good idea.
Big time. So
that's kind of my idea for a set sometime in the far future. Some ones that may not have an option to come out some other way.
No, I like it. A lot of red in there as well. Very, very bright.
Yeah.
Very awesome. I'm loving it. And yeah, and I almost can see it happening. Like, I don't know if I see it happening in another HasLab, but I could definitely see them doing a red HISS tank again. I don't think they're going to...
You think so? You think that they could just release an electronics-free red HISS tank at Amazon or Target Online or something?
That's what I think. Yeah, I think that they're not... even Emily mentioned that the tooling isn't like... It's not like this is the only time the tooling's ever going to be used. They're going to use it again, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think that's an option. So
but no, I do.
I'm throwing this out there.
I love the idea.
We're coming up with ideas.
I love the idea though, and the toe behind as well is important. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, I agree. You probably want to give it a little space just between the two, but I really like the whole set you've put together and the idea of a toe behind. I think a lot of people were dreaming of that for the first HasLabs. So I think because they don't have to invest in tooling the HISS tank again, because that part is done, I think they can get a little bit more creative with what the add-ons they put onto it, including like a toe behind. I think that's a great idea.
Cool. All right then. Well, I'll do my first version, my first option for the Classified HasLab. And again, I was like really having to think about this because there's so many different things I would like. There's so many different factors you have to take into consideration as you start getting like, totally drawn into it, and you're trying to think of everything going, hang on, this won't work because it's way too big, or this isn't going to quite work, or that doesn't make any practical sense. But I know a lot of people have already mentioned this one as well, and I thought, I hadn't really been doing much in the way of like the bad guys, so I thought, you know what, I do actually want a Classified Thunder Machine. And I think a Thunder Machine would be awesome. I think it's iconic enough. I think it is... The Dreadnoks are iconic enough. I think I would say that if you were... You know, obviously, G.I. Joe, Cobra, people know those brands, right? They know them. But I think Dreadnoks is almost up there in like almost commercially known as well. I think like the biker gang angle, the fact that it's so bonkers, that Zartan changes color, that yada yada yada. There's all this kind of iconic stuff around it, and the Dreadnoks are kind of very well known, especially in like you know everyone knows who the Dreadnoks are. So and I think when you look at the Thunder Machine, it is just, I mean, it's iconic. The two massive guns poking through the front. It's Mad Max, isn't it? It's like, it's do it yourself. It's weld some doors on, and it's like, let's go nuts. And I think it just, I think it just blows, so many different things out of the way in terms of what could come as a classified item. And I'm really surprised, especially knowing Lenny's disposition, how long it has taken Dreadnoks to really work their way into the classified line. I know obviously Zartan, he's almost beyond the Dreadnoks as a brand. Yeah. Like he's his own brand. So you expect Zartan to come out. Zorana, I didn't know it was you. She has taken a while to get out, but she's coming soon. I hope. And then and now we've had the fact that they've revealed that we're getting some other is it Ripper? I think it's Ripper, isn't it? Yep. Is coming soon. So it's like, okay, finally getting the gears are working on it. So then I'm thinking, okay, Thunder Machine, Thrasher, obviously he's got to be in there, right? My next one is Monkey Wrench. However, it's not the Monkey Wrench we know, because I'm thinking like repaint potential. I'm thinking like, get the regular Monkey Wrench out in the main line. For this one, they should go to the artwork from the box, and they should do him as a blonde Monkey Wrench, with the blue top on, and really go to town on that as a repaint for the HasLab. So it would be like those are the driver and the passenger, basically, right? And then I did throw a bunch of images on. We're kind of looking at a bunch of images here, but there was one I didn't do because and I kind of wish I had, but I can because I can do whatever I want. Heart Wrencher would be a good one to do because she's a mechanic, and obviously she could be a mechanic for the vehicle too. But the thing there is I was kind of hoping that we could get we'd get her probably with a ground assault or something along those lines in the future. And that's something you could probably get away with, maybe just a repainted Ram and Heart Wrencher. So I think you could definitely do something like that in the future. So that's why I wasn't 100% on Heart Wrencher, but it would make sense as well as the his tactician makes sense. She would be like a Thunder Machine accompaniment, but as a mechanic. So obviously I think there's and so many Dreadnoks you could utilize. So Zorana in her black costume would be a good one to do, because obviously we've already got her coming in her pink kind of standard issue kind of gear. So if you could do that black version in the HasLab, it's a nice little easy repaint. Thing is, I'm looking at HasLabs and they don't really usually tend to really lean on repaints, do they? They might repaint, obviously they're repainting the tactician figure, but it's based on a new figure within the HasLab. So with this particular one, you probably wouldn't see Zorana utilized, but maybe Zanya could come in. And then obviously you've got Road Pig, you've got Xandar, you've got Burnout, you've got multiple options you could throw in, and I'm avoiding some of the obvious ones, mainly because I just expect them to come in the main line at some point, and with motorbikes and things like that, So that was my one for classified. Thoughts?
I mean, I dig it. Yeah, I think the Thunder Machine is one of those vehicles that does have some pop culture, exposure. I'm thinking somewhat fondly of the Cobra's Finest, the cosplay group that actually did a full-blown Thunder Machine. I mean, it's obviously well-known enough that it appears out there. It was pretty heavily featured in the second season of the Sunbow animated series. It made its appearances known throughout the comic as well. I think I love, as you pointed out, sort of the Mad Max functionality of it. I think that really leaned into some of those early Dreadnoks who very much looked like that kind of post-apocalyptic wasteland sort of characters. So yeah, I really, I think that's a great choice, for Classified. It's about the right size. It's got a lot of potential for figures that can come with it. Yeah, I think you nailed it. It's a good choice.
Thank you. Also, Chaos. There's another one you could throw in there, kind of very much.
Oh yeah.
With that kind of Halloween mask and stuff. Anyway, yeah. And I'm just naming Dreadnoks now. Sorry, Pat.
There's some of them still from a long time ago, like Death Metal from Devil's Due never got made.
Yep.
But yeah, I like it. I really am into the idea of making Monkey Wrench match that Thunder Machine package.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Be fun as an O-ring figure as well.
Oh yeah,
but
definitely.
Getting him in any way, I think, is an excellent idea. And I don't know about the repaint situation, because I think that to pad out a HasLab and to make it have more figures in the set, it does make sense to have, the key characters be new, but to also just, boost it a bit by throwing in some repaints that, may not otherwise happen, like Zorana in her black outfit.
Yeah.
I think that does make sense to me. I do think that Xandar probably could survive at retail.
Definitely.
So could Road Pig.
Yeah.
A lot of these probably could. But, maybe you do Sonic Road Pig.
Oh, with the tan.
Don't forget about, Cousin Cletus and the Dreadheads, too. You gotta get those
I think I forgot about those.
I wiped them from my memory.
I tried, but yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Although I will say that the individual characters in that convention set weren't so bad. Like Crusher was pretty,
they were good.
Crusher was great, and Demolisher, I think, was really cool. But we don't need the Dreadheads.
No, that was a weird thing. Anyway, well, okay. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate the shout on that one. Justin, you're up again, buddy. Finish us off with your option 2.
So I went relatively vanilla with this one, with the idea that, we could soup it up a little bit with some enhancements. So kind of opposite of the Cobra Hiss, I went with, I think, what a lot of people are expecting in the G.I. Joe Vamp. It's, a decent sized vehicle, complements the Hiss well. If I was going to add any wrinkles to it, what I've kind of, and it wouldn't be a precise match, but I was thinking of some modular parts, similar to how Pat kind of talked about the Hiss and the O-ring set, where you could have like sort of removable turrets and stuff. Yeah. I was thinking you could like customize the Vamp. It could come with the regular weapons turret from the version 1. It could have the missile launcher from the Mark II. It could have the folding doors in the roof that you could either take off or put on. The only trick you run into there is obviously the Vamp Mark II is a different color than the Vamp Mark I, so you'd have to kind of use your imagination a little bit, or come up with some kind of new color scheme that sort of is in between the two, not a perfect match for either one, but kind of a blend of them both. I think there's room for doing something like that, but with some really cool kind of improved tooling, kind of maybe a lift up hood in the front, and an engine and some blast effects, and really soup up, get similar to what they did with the Hiss, where you go for the big 6-inch scale and you use that as an opportunity to really add functionality and design elements and features. And obviously I don't think the Vamp really has the capacity for like a removable, or not removable, but an opened compartment in the back that figures can go in. But you could maybe put like a little platform, so if there is that rocket launcher, if you want it to be automated, it can be automated, or if somebody wants to stand behind it and do something, they could do that as well. There's some areas that
include the 4-seater setup that Pat was talking about for his.
That's an idea as well. Yeah, for sure. If you wanted to beef up the size a little bit, put 4 seats in there. Yeah, I think there's all sorts of opportunities to make it really interesting. Rather than just being an upscaled version of the Vamp, really kind of mac it out with some cool new features and stuff. And of course it would come with clutch.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, that'd be working headlights or something like that. That'd be kind of cool. Yeah, I would like that a lot.
And it could have a G.I. Joe logo that shines out the front. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I don't think that would work quite as well as the...
It's not as intimidating, is it? No.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it would be an opportunity to, obviously get Clutch out there, get maybe Grunt out there, some other of the original 13 characters. I think Hasbro is obviously working towards that. We've got Breaker, we've got obviously, I don't know if I count the version of Scarlet we have as an original 13
Yeah,
Scarlet, but I
probably
can
not.
see them doing probably a more classic version. We've got the retro Snake Eyes coming. There's certainly are eyeing that sort of rock and roll and all that stuff. So this could be a way for them to get a couple more OG13 characters sort of out there in this HasLab. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's not really outside the box, but
I'm thinking something cool. They could easily do this. Well, easily. They could do this remote controlled.
That would be an interesting twist.
I think that's where if they put all of their put it on in the electronics and that kind of aspect, the features will come because of the size of it. Do you know what I mean? Like, that you'll have the features there. You can take that off. You can put that on the figures. But imagine having figures in there, like enjoying a little drive around the kitchen. Like, that would be cool as heck.
It'd be almost impossible to do with the modular stuff, but can you imagine a Vamp Mark II remote control driving around and you could stop, you could turn the little missile launcher and fire missiles out of it? Yeah, exactly. I don't know how you could do that with it being modular and stuff, but I don't know.
Dude, I've got a Nerf Terror Scout that does things like that, so it's possible. It's definitely possible. Anyway, I like that one. I like that one. About you, Pat?
Yeah, I like the idea. Also, I can just picture how cool Clutch would look with like the instrument panel lit up in front of him.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, I could see that. I could really see it working. I do think that this one is kind of a shoe-in for a HasLab. So having it within our discussion kind of makes a lot of sense to talk about it and think through the various options that we could see. Sure.
And on the opposite of making sense, Pat, do you want to do your second option? I'm joking, of course. I think this is amazing.
Okay. Well, for a second, I forgot what my second option was. I was like, I have another one? And then I looked at the pictures and I'm like, oh, right, I do have another one.
He has a whole story and it is amazing.
So my theme is Return to Cobra Law.
Dun, dun, dun.
And the story is that there were rumblings that Cobra Law was being rebuilt. And so Chuckles, having been there, was sent on a mission months ago. It's been 8 months since we've heard from Chuckles. He's deep undercover, disguised as a royal guard.
With his Hawaiian shirt over the top of it, please.
With his Hawaiian shirt, sure, why not?
He's running around making insect noises.
Yes, exactly. Learning how to do whatever they do. Like, imagine what he would have to eat across 8 months.
Poor Chuckles.
Yeah.
He was once a man, Chuckles.
So we haven't heard from Chuckles. Who are we going to send in to Cobra Law to save Chuckles?
I know.
Well, in reality, maybe we should just send a whole bunch of people. You only need one guy. We're sending in Sergeant Slaughter.
Yay!
Awesome.
So it's going to be the Triple T.
Yes.
With Sergeant Slaughter.
Yes.
There's going to be a Chuckles figure. I'm actually a little bit debating on whether or not it should just be Chuckles in his white Hawaiian shirt to kind of give us that sunbow look. And then it can be reused in the main line in the blue Hawaiian shirt.
That's a good idea.
Or if he should be, because in the main line, they could do some crazy deco on a Hawaiian shirt. Like that's something that needs to happen.
Yep.
But in this, it would just be fun to have Chuckles disguised as a royal guard. And then I don't want a royal guard in the set because it's an army builder. And as we were talking about it, if you're going to put an army builder in a HasLab, I would like it to be something of a twist. So it's not the one that you want to have a bunch of.
Yeah.
So Chuckles as a royal guard could kind of make sense, and then release the royal guard at retail. But I do think that the Cobra Law had a lot of trouble getting off the ground and happening in the 25th anniversary. And then we never did get a Globulus.
Nope.
Or a royal guard. So I think that doing them as a set, just to make sure that they all happen, and for those that want it, here you go. And this is very different than a HISS tank. I've not included a HISS tank in this set. But yeah, do Globulus with a crazy tail. And also, the Triple T is not a giant vehicle. So I think there's an option to do a versus kind of thing in here. and include that orb that Globulus uses to fly around in the show. So
Sold.
have his tail and have it collapse into the orb, and that be your Globulus figure against your Triple T, Slaughter, and Chuckles. And then I could just imagine like the crazy wings that they could come up with for Nemesis and Enforcer. I don't know if I would want like wings that are articulated with like a membrane that like collapse, because that would be awesome. Or like also maybe swappable, so that they are the fully collapsed wings that would look really nice versus those really outstretched like huge wingspan that he has in the cartoon. I really want to see that. And of course, you can't have the set without including Pythona.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. So I need this to happen. Yeah.
If this can happen yesterday, that would be great.
Just can the HISS tank and just ship everybody this set instead.
Yeah.
They'll be thrilled.
Literally melt the paint model and everything in front of them. Just burn it. No, that's great, man. I love that. That's such a brilliant. Yeah. It's a funny little premise, and I'm in.
I love that you've got a storyline to go along with it that connects all the figures together. That's fantastic. I think the engineering on Globulus' tail would be amazing in 6-inch scale. I think they would be able to do some really cool jointed sort of stuff with it. Yeah, man. I want the set now.
I like the humor in there as well, because I can just imagine Chuckles. I mean, how does Chuckles infiltrate Cobra Laugh, for goodness sake? Like, I know he's good, but that is on
he's there for 8 months.
I know, that is on some actual Sunbow level bonkersness, isn't it? I love it.
It's great. It's great.
But in my head, he's wearing his Hawaiian shirt, and he's got like, you know, like he's got a disguise everywhere else, but the Hawaiian shirt is still on top.
He's a royal guard with a Hawaiian shirt running around.
Exactly.
Still has the shoulder holster, but like, you know, there's a gun made out of fish or something. And then he has like a briefcase. Like, I think of all the Private Eye stuff too. And he has like a briefcase that's some kind of crustacean.
Yeah, like a clamshell or something.
A clamshell that opens up. Yeah, it's perfect.
Oh my god. Yeah, he's on his phone, and it's that one that's amazing.
Make that sound again, Chris. What does it sound like?
Yeah. Anyway, that's enough of that. Brilliant, Pat. Yeah, I'm in. You had me at hello.
Yeah, this one, you can just erase the whole rest of the episode. Yeah. Just do that.
I'm doing it now.
Yeah. Just ignore the rest of us.
Burning it. An hour and a half of absolute wibble, and then Pat goes. Right, no, that's awesome. Okay, my one then, for option 2. No, I didn't like. This is the thing. I love the fact you put a story to that. I think that's great. And that, I think when we do this in the future, I'm going to be trying to think of cool ways to tie it together as stories. I think that's a really good idea, more so than just talking about what we want to see. Let's really put some thought into it. Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Pat. Thank you, mate, for giving me that idea.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go with mine now. This is my final. This is my killer. This is the one I want to see. This is the one I've been talking about for ages, so people already know what it's going to be, and that is the Tomahawk / Eagle Hawk for Classified. And obviously, I just feel like it's, you know, when you talk about iconic for Cobra, you know, the HISS tank, you know, Cobra Commander, Destro, Baroness, they're all the icons of the Cobra team. For Joe, it's always like, it's Snake Eyes, it's Duke, it's Scarlet, it's Flint J, it's you know, the Vamp, we've already discussed it. But to me, like, and the Sky Striker, but to me, the Tomahawk, or the Eagle Hawk as it's known now, is one of those vehicles that just screams G.I. Joe to me. It's such a peak time for the brand as well. When I was a kid, the Tomahawk was just the vehicle. My buddy had it, my next door neighbor Sean had it, and we would always be playing with it. It's incredible. It's packed full of features. It's just a brilliant vehicle. I've got multiples of them at home. I've even got the Tiger Force one that came out, which is just absolutely gorgeous as well. The one that came out for the club many years later. And yeah, just one of those vehicles that no matter what they do with it, I'm just always really happy with it. Now, for Classified, it's big. I know it's a big vehicle, but I kind of want to. That's what I want. I want something that's going to be like stupid, that you know you're never ever going to get any other way. And I know it would probably throw another couple of hundred on the price tag from like what the HISS tank was, but I think I'd be okay with that. and well, maybe 150 on it. I don't know. We'd have to kind of see once we talked about the features where we're lining up here. But I think what I'd be looking at is, you know, more like the space that you have for the 3 3/4, but obviously for the 6-inch figures. I'd want minimum. I'd want a RAM to be able to slide out the back of the thing. Minimum. I know, but that's what I expect. I expect a RAM to be able to sit in the back, and when that thing drops down, it could just
like
go,
the size of my desk.
Too late. It's already it's already coming, and there's nothing you can do about it. I would also have on the side panels where you know, like because I think in a couple of these episodes there's a sliding door that closes on them. So I'd love to have like either like a 2 doors that kind of come to meet in the middle at the slide closed, and that when they open up, it's, you know, as if there aren't any doors there at all, obviously. But I'd also love to have like netting thrown there, because I've seen that on like a lot of modern helicopters. They'll put netting across, like, you know, elasticated netting to keep things from like falling out of it, obviously, when the doors are open. But then, you know, like mounted machine gun posts, and the option to kind of put other guns and stuff on there too. I'd have, again, blast effects. I'd have a working winch. I'd have the you know, the machine gun on the bottom. That would work. The cockpit would be cool to be like a little bit more elaborate in the way that it opens, or maybe in the way, yeah, I suppose it'd be opening forwards, but maybe like a split window kind of thing where, you know, it opens like 2 windows almost, kind of, so there's like a bar down the middle or something, you know, give it a bit more like detail on the cockpit is what I'm saying. And then like in between the bit where you'd have the pilots and, you know, the opening of the door, I would like to see a spot where you could kind of have Lifeline's gear, like stretcher and all of his like medical equipment, interacting with it. And obviously Lifeline could be one of the figures that this would come with, and I think that would just be great, because you could have like, it could be the pre-paint for a Tiger Force Lifeline. It could be, you know, and, you know, I'm not saying that he'd be great in the main line, and they probably would have him. Maybe Doc would work really well, you know, as long as there was a medic on there. And Lifeline always screams to me the Tomahawk more so than, because he's so synonymous with it in the cartoon. And I think it would be great. Obviously, Lift Ticket has to be involved in this. Engine panels that are removed to reveal real detailed engine aspects, but like, you know, on both helicopter blade sections. A spot for Chuckles to lie down on
after they rescue him from Cobra Long.
And that could tie in with Pat's HasLab storyline. I just love all, like, as many details as possible to really go to town on this thing, and maybe even for the blades to spin round on a motor. And when I look at like maybe the little button push one that cranks them, you know, that would be kind of fun and cool, especially if they're not touching each other, because you know, like it's the kind of magic, isn't it, of these helicopters? Like, how are they not colliding with each other? And I think that would be dope for them to work that out. That's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say that is the one. And also, I think with the winch option, I think there should be a trap door, excuse me, so that a figure can actually get out to the winch from the inside and go down. Or failing that as a ridiculous option, obviously removable seats inside too, but obviously failing that option, 2 winches either side, so that, or, you know, or multiple winches either side that all figures could hook up to. Maybe 2 on one side and 2 on the other. Yeah. So they can, like, you can literally, the whole squad can, you know, drop down. Like, again,
even Lift Ticket.
It's just up there floating. They've got it on autopilot. Everyone's out. Oh crap! How do we get back in? So yeah, I think that's my dream ticket, and that's what I'd love to see. And in terms of other figures, like I said, Lifeline would be an absolute dream. Wild Bill you could throw in there, unless obviously I'd maybe keep him for a Dragonfly down the line, possibly, or even a Skyhawk down the line. But you could throw Wild Bill in there, or you could just go. Which is probably more my thought process, Lift Ticket, Lifeline, and then I'd love to get a vintage styled Ripcord, because or, you know, Ripcord or Airborne, or any of those kind of guys that are you either see jumping out or they're helping people jump out of aircraft. I'd love any of those. Airborne would be freaking awesome. But I'd love to see Ripcord, because I feel like it's only recently that he's had any love again, that version of the figure with the Night Force one. But anyway, that is it. That's that. Thoughts? Any?
I have a thought, but it involves changing your idea.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
No, I'm thinking of the recent Skeletron, the recent Skeletron Kickstarter.
Okay.
One of the things that they did was they made their large vehicle be compatible with both 6-inch and 4-inch figures.
Okay.
And I've always wanted a vehicle that could, a Tomahawk that could maybe drop a ramp. If you could drop a classified ram from the back of your Tomahawk, why couldn't you maybe make it wide enough to fit a vintage vamp, and then, make the seats in front pop out so that you can put some 3 3/4 inch seats in there. I mean, the back seats usually in a Tomahawk, those pop out anyway. That's how they're designed.
And they're flat to the floor anyway, aren't they?
3 3/4 and 6-inch, and just make this vehicle both.
Do like 4 3 3/4 inch seats in the front instead of 2 6-inch seats or something. You take the pair out and put 4 of the others in. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Or just sit the 3 3/4 figures on the 6-inch seats, because that would look just tiny, holding the things up there. Yeah, no, I'm cool with that, mate. You're not changing the idea.
Cool idea.
You'd have to, you'd have to draw back some of the crazy stuff I've been kind of like envisioning.
I don't know how
little
much.
bit. Probably a little bit, in order to make the 3 3/4 size like kind of work, I think. Because if it's too big,
Really?
well, yeah, but if it's too big, then you really lose that opportunity. There's a balance, I think, in size.
Okay, yeah, I could see that.
The Robo Skull guys definitely, Skeletron, Ben, everyone.
They found that sweet spot, and theirs was a science fiction vehicle, so it just kind of worked in general.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I like that thought, though, mate.
Gigantic.
You could argue you could throw this in with the O-ring and say just make it a bigger one with cooler things, and away you go. I think that would be just as successful.
Well, yeah, but then you're almost losing out on that. On the opportunity to just make it that little bit more and get the 6-inch crowd involved. I think making it a 6-inch vehicle with a 3 3/4 afterthought is the way to approach this.
Okay, that's cool. I can deal with that. Anyway, we've finally come to the end of that, guys. My goodness, how has this taken so long? Anyway, we've got one more little thing to do for you guys, and that is a tiny little version therapy. So we'll do that now, and then we'll bring it to a close, because this is ridiculous. Right, continuing with our regular monthly segment now, Version Therapy, which is where we choose a single G.I. Joe or Cobra character and have a discussion on what action figure version is their best. Now, of course, we are all probably going to have different opinions on this based on when we were born, personal experience and so on, but that's where the fun lies. Feel free to let us know who your favourite action figure version is and why in the comments below as well. So who have we got next? Well, last month we looked at Sergeant Slaughter based on the fact that we had Adam Riches on the show to take us through his amazing classified box art. Next up then, and considering we've been discussing HasLabs, we thought it would be a good time to look at the former used cars salesman turned head honcho bad guy, Cobra Commander! Right, let's start. Justin, we're back to you, mate. Take us through your favourite Cobra Commander version, please, and why.
Yeah, and this was a much more difficult choice than I thought it would be. I mean, number one, there's tons of versions of Cobra Commander, and number two, they've they've done numerous, really great. I was this close to picking the G.I. Joe Retaliation kind of ultimate Cobra Commander 4-inch figure because it's the definitive, look for Cobra Commander, great articulation. But at the end of the day, I kind of had to stick with, my old favorite, and Sigma 6 is kind of my lifeblood. I love Sigma 6.
You never You never mentioned that to me ever.
I love what they do with their Cobra Commander. Like for the cartoon, for all of its faults, and it's got tons of faults, the way they handled Cobra Commander is kind of an armored, super powered kind of villain who, will actually trade punches with the Joes rather than just like run away and retreat all the time. I really liked that, and the figures kind of resembled that too. So I actually selected the Battlefield General version of Cobra Commander, which was the Sigma 6 8-inch line from, I think it's Wave 4. It's the black suit version. It's got a great like ornate Cobra themed cape. He's comes with his hooded head, but then you can take the battle helmet and slide it right on over it, so you can do either one. I like that the black suited version doesn't have the battle armor chest, because the original Cobra Commander, like you breathed on that thing funny and suddenly the Cobra symbol was all dented up. So I like that. He's got some really cool kind of flame themed weapons. Just a very distinctive, somewhat different look to Cobra Commander that I really enjoyed. So at the end of the day, I went with Sigma 6, which I'm sure surprises nobody, but the Wave 4 version would be my favorite.
Mate, I wish you though, it's gorgeous. I love it.
Oh, it's a great figure. And the way I've got mine displayed is that figure with, there was a version I think came out in Wave 7 maybe, or Wave 8, which was actually like a chrome-plated Cobra Commander with a lightning-themed staff. But what he came with was a snake-themed air sled. So I kind of used that snake-themed air sled with the black-suited Cobra Commander. That's kind of a definitive Sigma 6 Cobra Commander. But it's
sweet.
It's such a great line. I love it.
It's an absolutely wonderful line, and I won't hear any bad things about it, because it's got me back into collecting G.I. Joe, and I've always been enamored by the designs. I thought they were really cool. The cartoon, it's a bit of a difficult watch sometimes, but even with that, the figures are like next level, and that figure is beautiful, and I love the black with the red. It just looks so good on that hooded head. Are you a fan of this one, Pat?
Yeah, I really like it. I actually really like in the cartoon, whenever Cobra Commander would be seen with his hood on and the helmet, but not the mask. I thought that was really cool look for him. There's a lot of stuff that cartoon. Yeah, it can be hard to watch, but it also is one of those things where it's worth watching to go, ooh, I wish I had that. I wish I had that. I wish I had that. And we just got done talking about dreadnoughts that haven't gotten their time. Where's Machete?
Oh yeah, big time.
Definitely.
Yeah, I know we've got a few listeners that always bring up that era and the particular characters from that particular cartoon as well, that, again, have not really had the same kind of spotlight for a long time as some of the other characters. Mm-hmm. No, that's wicked, man. I love and Sigma 6, man. There's just something so, I forget the term, but when from memory you can feel it. Is it tactile? I think it's tactile.
Yeah.
You can feel, I can see that package. I'm holding it, and I feel everything about it. The plastic container that connects together. There was just brilliant.
I'm not sure what the exact terminology, and I know a lot of people say it's kind of the dopamine rush of getting something new. When I first got Sigma 6, and this is really kind of, there's a certain emotion that buying new items kind of triggers in me sometimes. Not everything, but like new things that the minute you get it in your hands, you're like, this is something different. This is something that I'm going to enjoy. And there's a few times throughout my life that I remember having that feeling. One was when I bought my 82 version of Flash at Ames, way back in 1982. Mm-hmm. Touching that figure was like, this is different to me. This isn't, the same Star Wars figure. But, I had that feeling when I got the original Skeletor from the Masters of the Universe line way back around the same time. But I had that feeling like when Sigma 6 came out, and this was kind of at the tail end of KB Toys life, and I had worked at KB Toys for many years. I wasn't working at KB Toys at that time, but we still had a local store that I had managed in the past before I had to move out of town. But Sigma 6 was actually being found for the first time in KB Toys, and I'm like, wow, I'll check my local KB Toys, and I went down and it was there. The whole assortment was there on the shelf. And I think that might have been the last item I ever bought from KB Toys at all, was that first wave of Sigma 6. I bought it all, brought it home, ripped it open. And the minute I think I opened Spirit first. And the minute I had him in my hands, I'm like, yeah, this is something cool. And I still feel that way. I've gone through many different phases, and I've sold off certain things and, packed away certain things. But Sigma 6 is always going to have a place, pretty high place in my life. I think it's just a great toy line. It's fantastic.
Yeah, again, you've never really mentioned that though, dude. So it's
I know.
interesting.
I'm quiet about Sigma 6.
Interesting to hear that, you know, this new thing about you that I've never known. I'm kidding.
Well, it's and again, I'm going off topic and kind of this is why the show has lasted for 2 hours, because I won't stop talking. But
wow.
I mean, it kind of explains a way that toys can connect to us, because I started the Sigma 6 Central website around the same time in 2005, and for the first time, I'd been kind of supporting the brand for 10 years up to that point. No, a little less than 10 years, because I started in like the late 90s and this was 2005, so maybe about six years or so.
Yeah.
And for the first time, Hasbro actually reached out and said, we'd like to talk to you about Sigma 6 and kind of get you seem to be really gung-ho about it. And at the time, not many people were gung-ho about it. They were
no
kind
pun
of
intended.
Kids. Yeah, exactly. So I actually got a chance to talk to Hasbro about Sigma 6 and tell them about the site, and have some interaction with them for the first time, which was great. And I remember this very clearly, because they wanted to schedule a secondary phone call on a specific Friday, I think, and I had to tell them no, because it was my daughter's first baby check. She was, I think, like a month old at the time. So like my eldest daughter Meg was born at the same time that Sigma 6 kind of came out, and for some reason I have that connection in my head with my first child and Sigma 6, and it may sound hokey, but that's just kind of the truth of it. And it seems like it was kind of a turning point in my life in a couple different ways.
Technically, Sigma 6 was your first child.
Don't tell her that.
That's awesome, man. It's great to hear, and it's good to hear that the connections too. Because I honestly don't think you've ever you genuinely haven't mentioned that aspect of it before.
No, so. I don't think I have mentioned that before. But yeah, it was kind of it's sort of all happened at once, and it's like there was a life before 2005 and a life after 2005, and it kind of dovetails in an interesting way. Not saying that Sigma 6 changed my life or anything, but just happened to evolve at a time when my life was changing for other reasons, and I just have very positive recollections of that time. So
totally, I just think of Manhattan Toys R Us. That's what I think of, because that I remember seeing them in there and just being like, need that Snake Eyes. Need that winter Snake Eyes with the snowboard and Timber.
Yeah, and Timber,
I love that figure. Anyway, okay, cool. Thanks for that, Justin, for the amazing explanation as to why that Cobra Commander is your favorite version. Love it. Pat, you're up next, buddy, and you have made my life incredibly difficult on this one, but I really I really love what you're going for here. Go for it.
Yeah, essentially, I really like it whenever something is such a great idea at its inception that it inspires other versions for years. So I have a really hard time accepting anything but the first one of Cobra Commander.
I get what you're saying.
The best one. That shiny mask just speaks volumes of his secret identity. There's just such a mystery there that was able to, there's just so much that can be written based on this figure.
Yeah.
And was written based on this figure.
I was going to say, there's been a bit
that are great. What?
I was going to say, there's been a little bit of writing about this particular thing.
There have been a few things. There might be a TV show. There might be a few hundred comics.
Maybe.
But yeah, I just think that this is the ultimate iconic version of Cobra Commander, and the hooded Cobra Commander is also iconic. I think that one was kind of created to allow Cobra Commander to emote whenever needed. Yeah. Like if he's not going to be around G.I. Joe and in danger in a comic book, and Larry Hama needs to have him making an expression, well, add a hood to him. And then the hooded figure came out much later. But I think that between the two, the iconic one is the Cobra Commander in the mask that's really unlike anything else, other than the Viper that came later, that kind of ripped off Cobra Commander. But I would say that to pick the ultimate version, I also need to pick the ultimate version of that, which would be the Chinese release of Cobra Commander.
Unbelievable.
And the reason why I picked that is because if you have a version 1 American one, you can probably all picture the arms, and the swivel arm, I think, is the better of the two figures, just because swivel arm battle grip's awesome.
Yes.
But that elbow is a little bit discolored compared to the rest of the body. And in the Chinese release of the figures, they tended to get that to be a much, much closer color.
Interesting.
So the Chinese Cobra Commander is a little bit better, but he doesn't come with a version 1 Cobra Commander gun, which is absolutely necessary because it fits onto his back. Chinese Cobra Commander comes with
just a pistol,
essentially with Night Force Shockwaves gun.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's not the good gun to come with him. One that he needs to have is the version 1 gun so that it can plug into his back. So Chinese Cobra Commander, version 1 Cobra Commander gun, so that it can plug into his back, which is clearly a fun feature for that original figure.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I love the version 1 and the Chinese elbows in particular.
Gotta love Chinese
I like to make your
elbows.
life difficult when it comes time for finding images for all
Oh
this.
mate, it's just hilarious how much pain it causes me. No, it's great, and it's you know, again, I love it. It's never just a straightforward answer. And I don't mean just from you, Pat. I just mean in general, it's never really a straightforward answer, is it? There's a lot of things. I mean, I think if I really thought about it, that I'd be taking from other aspects, and you'd be making your perfect version of a certain character. But and there are some instances where the inversion therapy we've gone, it's that one, isn't it, really? And everyone's been like, yeah, it's kind of that one. Yeah, good shout, Pat. I like that. And again, like I said, not straightforward. Your classic maneuver. I'm going to say mine isn't straightforward either. My kind of choices are completely different, really. Like, and I'll say initially I was going to say Snake Supreme from the Classified line, because when I got that figure in hand, I was like Justin when he got his Sigma 6 figures. I was like, this is special. I mean, we'd had deluxe boxes with Snake Eyes at that point, but we hadn't had one that when you opened it kind of like animated. And like, you know, like rose out of there, like, hello, look at me. And it's just incredible. So, you know, the deco on it's gorgeous, the accessories are fun, and I thought, you know, that is probably my top one. And then I was like, you know what? It's not though. The main one for me has and always will be, for some, I don't know, not odd reason, I suppose, because this was my Cobra Commander, but it's the battle armor Cobra Commander. It's just that's what it is, the original vintage version. And a lot of people, when I've mentioned this in the past, they'd be like, oh, it's Fred. Well, yeah, it is Fred in the comic. It's not necessarily always Fred in the Deke cartoon. It's not necessarily always Fred in other iterations of media and merchandise and so on and so forth. So I get what they're saying, and I understand that. But for me, this was my Cobra Commander. And I remember the first time it kind of came out was during when G.I. Joe and G.I. Joe and Action Force were combining, and it was basically around the period where it was becoming G.I. Joe the Action Force. That was the new brand kind of change, and they had this whole like fold out leaflet with like, you know, you had to sign the treaty as a member of Action Force, and all this. It was really fun. Little comic strip that came with it as well, and it just I think the memories of that era just like are strong with me. Plus, it's kind of cool looking, and the more I see that figure, the more I think, man, a classified version of that is going to be insane at some point. So yeah, that for me has to be my favorite version of Cobra Commander. For anyone watching, of course, as well, let us know who your favorite version of Cobra Commander is in the comments. And also, you know, let us know all of your thoughts on all of our classified HasLabs, our O-ring HasLabs, what you want to see in HasLabs, and all that kind of good stuff. Let us know. Get it in the comments, and we'll take it on board and never, ever read them ever again. I'm just kidding. Anyway, guys, this has been a very long episode to do, but it's been great. It's been great having Justin back on as well. Thank you, mate, for jumping on.
Absolutely.
It's been fun. We'll have to do this again sometime when you've got a spare 12 hours. Pat, buddy, thanks as well, mate, for jumping on and going through all these with me and us.
It's always fun. Yeah, this is great. I loved hearing the ideas you guys had, and now I want these toys, and so somebody better make them happen.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So true, isn't it? Like, my goodness. Anyway, guys, I will bring it to a close. That brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you for joining us for the Full Force Monthly. Massive thank you to my awesome co-hosts, Patrick Stewart and Justin Bell. See you next month. And as always, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Force!
Brilliant. Make sure you get involved with the discussion by liking, sharing and commenting on these videos, and as always you can keep up with the show after listening by following on Twitter @TheFullForce, liking the Facebook page facebook.com/TheFullForce, and if you would like to contact the show you can message us on either of those platforms with feedback and questions. We also have a Patreon page, so if you want to show your support for the show, see your name up in lights on these videos, or enjoy exclusive bonus content, then check out patreon.com/TheFullForce podcast, or click on the link on any of the posts this podcast appears in. Full Force!